Pretty from It's a Pretty World. Welcome to my channel. I'm making a 5x7 Christmas card today, and I'm using the W+9 Wintergreen stamp set. This is a new stamp set that released this month, early this month, and I've already pre-chosen a couple of leaves and pine branches, and I'm stamping this leaf using Simon Says Stamp Willow ink pad. It's a beautiful green ink pad. If you were to stamp it on white, obviously it's going to look much lighter, but because this is a craft cardstock, it's a little dark. And I stamped it on both corners of the of this large cardstock, of this craft cardstock, creating like a semicircle on both ends. And then I took this Altenew Markers and I started to shade the green leaves. Now these leaves do have an additional layer that you could stamp, and you don't have to do this. I did not have an ink pad that could complement this green well, so I decided to just shade the leaves using my markers. And then I made sure that as I was using these markers that I laid the darker shade in the area where the leaf would be darker, and the lighter shade where the leaf would be lighter. The darker color was G935, and I made this, like you can see there, a couple of leaves are facing upwards, so the dark part will be below the leaf, and then some leaves are facing towards the right side or the left side. So making sure whichever direction the leaf was, I laid the shadows, and then I took the lighter shade and I blended it. The lighter shade was so close to the color willow that I didn't really need to do a whole lot of blending. And after I was done with that, I went back with the dark shade and laid the veins of the leaf, and even the veins of the leaf I made sure that it was in the direction of the leaves facing, that they were not straight lines, that they were curving in the direction the leaves curved. And when I was and then what I did was I finished coloring all the leaves just the same, and when I was all done, I took the pine leaf right there and I inked it with Simon Says Stamp Embossing Ink because I wanted to emboss this pine cone using a gold embossing powder. And I used Brutus Monroe's Gilded Gold, and the Gilded Gold embossing powder looks really beautiful on craft cardstock. And I took this Gilded Gold embossing powder and embossed this entire pine cone all over the wreath, and the green and the craft and the gold just looked so beautiful together. I was just loving the way they were all looking so far. And then I wanted to stamp the sentiment, and the sentiment is also from the same style as some stat says, tiding of comfort and joy. And I stamped this using the embossing ink once more, and I embossed it using a white embossing powder. The white embossing powder was from Simon Says Stamp. It's called a Fine Detail White Embossing Powder, and it's really beautiful. And there you can see how it looks. The stamp does have a berry in the set right there, but I didn't use that. Instead, I'm going to use this crystal drop from Nuvo eventually later. But before that, I took a white gel pen and added some dots. If you were following me for some time, you know how much I love adding dots to my project. Adding this dot to this wreath really filled up the wreath. It made the wreath look really full. It gave like a very stardust kind of a look. It kind of gave a very wintry feel to the wreath itself, and also tied in that embossing powder, the white embossing powder, with that white dot, so that really was a very cohesive look. And then I took the side folding 5x7 note card in white, and I popped this panel using foam dots, and I used a lot of foam tape so that there would be no buckling anywhere. And then when I was done with that, I put this little dots using this Nuvo crystal in red all over the not really read the swag that I created, and it looked so beautiful. The red just popped up against the craft and the green. Then I realized that it was lacking something, so I took a red cardstock and I took this tiny greeting called Happy Christmas from Simon Says Stamp, and I stamped it on this red cardstock using white embossing ink. I really wanted something more. And then I took the tiny banner from Simon Says Stamp, a nesting banner die, and I die cut it using that particular die, and then I popped this using foam tape right below the joy eventually right below the joy, and that kind of completed the card, and I really liked the way it finished off. I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.